Hello and welcome to the Dark Reading News Desk from Black Hat USA 2025 from the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. We are thrilled to welcome our next guest for an in-depth conversation, Tim Brown, CISO with SolarWinds. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
You are a man with an incredibly interesting story to tell, and thank you so much for sharing it with us here. Let's just start 5 years ago. It seems like it was yesterday.
Yes.
2020, the SolarWinds, not a breach, right? What would the correct way to characterize it?
Yeah, I mean, the correct way to, I don't think you can get into a single word, right?
Okay.
It's really that we ended up shipping, we're attacked by the Russian SVR. We ended up shipping tainted code to 18,000 customers had it. Luckily, under 100 really went to a second stage and did damage. So I would put it more as an attack than a breach. Yeah.
And so as a result of that, you were ultimately named personally by the SEC as someone who they found to be on the hook for this in some fashion. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. I mean, when SEC looks to take action, they look to say what people can they charge with something.
And what does that feel like? What does that look like as a CISO who is not certainly the most high profile person in any organization? What does that feel like to be sitting at your desk and realize you are now a name being bandied about in conference rooms?
Right. Oh, just amazing. I mean, it's not very unexpected. Shocking at the moment.
Yeah.
Right? The likelihood of the charge occurring against me was very, very low according to everyone. And then when it occurred, it was a big surprise.
It was a surprise. You had no prior indication.
You went through normal, what they call pre-wells, meaning that me and a number of others were potentially being charged. And that was just the normal process. But when I was charged, a big shock to the system. And yeah, just a lot of stress, big shock.
Yeah.
I happened to have a heart attack at the same time.
Well, and surprisingly, right? It takes its toll. And so for the past 5 years, you have set about both doing your job on a day-to-day basis, as well as defending the job that was done years past. It must have taken an incredible, obviously it took a toll on your health, it took personal toll. Tell me about how you feel looking, and I should say now you've reached a settlement with the SEC, so we have now closed the book on this very long chapter, right?
Yeah, very, very close.
Very close to that. And so looking back, how do you feel about it now? Are you mad? I would be kind of mad and enraged. Do you get to indulge that, really?
So I look at both understanding what I could change during the process and how I could impact it. I had great people steering the boat. So they took care of those processes in the back end.
And it's probably worth saying SolarWinds was 1,000% behind you as an entity.
Defending me, yeah, absolutely, and behind me at every moment and every point in the case. And then I look at it and say, what good do we do? Because if the event had no good outcome, then that would have been terrible.
Wasted opportunity kind of
Wasted
thing.
opportunity. So if you look at the CISO role, the CISO role has been elevated in the last 2 years because of me being charged. They've had to have conversations with their executive team, conversations with the board, conversations about liability. And just the fact that those things went through really did help to elevate the role and make sure that the CISO is a player in those teams.
And I guess almost ironically, there has been this sort of decade-long argument about elevating the role of the CISO, and yet it took something like this for that to actually happen in earnest.
Correct. And because it was, it was very public, it was very important, and the community got very uncomfortable with, the amount of costs associated with needing private attorneys and those types of things. Again, SolarWinds covered all of my expenses, but they were not cheap to have attorneys for years.
Right. And I would only imagine those billable hours started racking up. But it was kind of, I guess not unexpected, but it was sort of, to me, to see the CISO and the cyber community really rally around you. I mean, there was a very clear feeling that you were being unfairly held to account by this. And so do you sort of look back on that and see sort of your community and your tribe?
Absolutely. So proud of the community. So proud to be a part of the community. And the amount of support that I've had through the community has been just unflappable. And very, 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 very supportive through this whole process. From the incident, then to the charging, and just through the process have been, incredible.
So let's talk about really, there's a lot of conversation going on now about sort of the ratcheting up of the stress that was already there for the role of the CISO and just how incrementally more complicated that role has become. So as sort of someone out on the forefront of this, what are the lessons that you think are transferable to other professionals, at your level?
Yeah, absolutely. So the, first one is that it's a great job. Right?
You still think it's a great job?
I still think it's a great job.
You're not ready to go off and make wind chimes or anything?
No,
Okay.
and I think that it's such an important job that we are protecting companies, we're protecting the nation, we're protecting things just selfishly. That's what we're doing. We are.
That's the motivation.
That's the motivation. So we have to keep that in mind always. And then, so lessons, right? Be patient. The CISO role has been around for 30 years. Right? We're young, we're kids. So CFO roles around for hundreds, thousands of years. So we're going through a maturity curve. So
A very quick one.
A quick one, yeah. And this is a step in that maturity.
Okay.
So
where are we, do you think? Like, are we a
Yeah.
teenager now with the CISO role or not even?
We're an infant
Okay.
still, and we're growing up. So we need controls in place. We need understanding of what our rules are. We need a better idea of what the clear definitions of our roles and have them documented. We need safeguards and cover, which sometimes come in regulation and audit. So we need to have those things in place so we're free to do our job and free to really do it without worry. And I think that will come over time. That's when we get to be a teenager.
Yeah. So that sort of inherent sense of I could be personally on the hook. You feel like that's still that's still a threat.
It's still a background, right? Just in U.S., right? U.S. we just tend to be very litigious.
We were talking about this before. Make that distinction because I think it's important.
Yeah. So in general, just if you look at something bad happen, you will see a suit occur. Whether it's a ransomware attack, whether it's a data leak, if there's enough there, lawyers will come in and they will file a suit. And that suit could be from an agency or it could just be an individual class action suit. In those cases, it will be very common to have the CISO named. So, liability is not necessarily gone, but should we move to more of a accountability versus liability?
What does that look like?
Yeah, and so accountability means that you would be fired for not doing your job, right? And
Fair
that's
enough.
more appropriate, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not doing my job, I'm being negligent, I'm not satisfying what the company needs, great, then I should be fired. But I shouldn't be liable and legally liable for something.
Understood.
That's what our dream is, to try to make that occur in the right way.
And when you look at the SEC, especially in regards to your case, there was a lot of sort of hand-wringing over the nebulous nature of sort of the requirements and sort of it seemed to me as a layman that there was still a lot of litigation to come to sort of nail down what those controls really are. As we sort of are in this, it shakes out, how can CISOs ensure that they are, or can they? Maybe they can't, I don't know.
So some things that they can do is make sure they're documenting their role very clearly and documenting what they don't do very clearly. If you're not on the disclosure committee, you need to say that you're not on the disclosure committee. If you're not making materiality decisions, but you're in the room where it's discussed and you're providing information, great, that's what you say. So I think one of the things that was lacking in some ways was the full definition of the role, and not just what you do, but what you don't do. Because it needs to be very clear. A chief security officer or chief information security officer participates, but we would never make a materiality decision, right? We would never make a disclosure decision. We would talk about it and be part of the room, but that would not be our job. So
And defining that is not my job is almost maybe more important than assuring the job is.
And documenting it and having it, having it be there, having it be discoverable, because it's somewhat a lack of education and lack of knowledge. Because you have this title, well, what is the title responsible for? Are they responsible for everything associated with security? Or are they responsible as an advisor for certain area where other people make the decisions?
That is an excellent point. Before we wrap up, I know we're running out of time, and I know you have a lot of places to be. I did want to circle back to what we were talking about before, that you really have become a bit of a CISO celebrity. And you were telling me that people are seeking you out for pictures and want to engage with you. What does that feel like?
It's actually very strange, right? It's not something that I wanted. It's not something that, I was after.
Right.
But I think it's humbling very much, right? That I could come through, this experience, and that people appreciate what I've tried to do, and that I have hopefully helped the community, and I've helped, everybody become better and stronger. So in many ways, just humbling that it's gone through that way.
Tim Brown, I'm so glad to see you with this almost in your rearview mirror. I know it's been a long 5 years. It's been fascinating for us to watch as journalists, but I can't imagine living through it. So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's great.
Of course. This has been a fascinating conversation with SolarWinds CISO Tim Brown, live from the Dark Reading News Desk at Black Hat USA 2025.